David said it'll be quick.
Be done before she gets here.
Yes, we can try.
Perfect, all right.
Go ahead. So, we have a, go ahead. You want to start, David?
Okay, all right, let's commence the November 7th HR Business Services Committee meeting. And first off, we have presentation.
Change orders presentation.
Change order.
I'm going to move my phone closer to you all so
Sure.
you can hear.
I can leave this off.
Okay, Dave, take it away.
This presentation, everybody recalls Nathan Norton. Nathan was here in June this past summer to talk about change events. And change events are similar to change orders. They're the bulk of the change events that we have tonight are related to allowances or losing the name of the term, contingencies that we had in the original bid for items that we weren't sure that we wanted to bid at the time because we didn't have the specifications or the knowledge needed to have them in the original bid. But I want everybody to know that we're still under the original bid approved amount, even with the items that Nathan will talk about tonight, and we'll go through the list, and if anybody has any questions, we can answer those when we get done. So I'll let Nathan take it from here.
All right. Did you guys have the list?
Yes,
You
sir.
have that? Okay. So what I did last in June, so as Dave indicated, these are change events that did turn into change orders for the prime contractors, but it doesn't impact the overall budget. These are contingencies and allowances that a lot of them we're planning on. Some of them are unforeseen, but they still fit in within our contingency bucket. So we're still trending really well from a budget aspect. I think what I'll do is the same thing I did in June, where I do a quick discussion on each item, or a quick run through, if you want, and then I'll leave it open to questions if anybody has a question on a particular item. So I'll just kind of run through them. So at the facilities building, we added some electrical and card access to door 119. We've had miscellaneous field work orders. That's what FWOs are. So that's the remodel of the existing facilities building. There was a lot of holes and spalling in the CMU, so we did a lot of patching to make it to clean up the surface of the walls there. We've had to add some wood bucks for some overhead doors, and then the existing roof we needed to modify and add some insulation to get the water to pitch correctly. That was unforeseen. There was an existing janitor sink that had a big crack in it that was to remain. We epoxy fixed that, and also removed the letters on the exterior of the building. That one we just didn't call the contractor to remove before, so we had them remove it on a field work order. We added an A-phone and a master station. An A-phone is the camera, so you can see who's at the front door, and also at the rear for deliveries. ERU and duct modifications. There was a conflict with some duct, so that was kind of an unforeseen. We had to modify some ductwork to get it to fit the air handling unit. Existing flush valves at facilities. There was a lot of cost savings at that existing building, and we saved a lot of the toilets and flush valves and kind of worked around them. Some of them were leaking, needed to be replaced, so we ended up leaving the toilets in place but replacing some of the flush valves so you didn't have to buy a whole new toilet, but you could get new flush valves. We also added a carbon monoxide sensor in the boiler room. We do have sensors, but not directly like this one that the inspector requested we add, so we just added it to appease the city inspector. At the district services, transportation, and roadway project, those are lumped together as one prime, or as multiple prime contracts separate from facilities. There was steel modifications and snow loading changes. So what that was, there was a note that indicated that the building may have been, if we want to heat the building in the future, now you have the flexibility of doing that, so the steel's increased to support that. So before it wasn't. other reason why that's 37,455 is because from the time that change was made, inflation was taking. So it normally should have been like a $28,000 thing, but steel pricing was going up, so that's why it got a little bit more sticker shock. We added multiple bollards to protect transformers and gas meters. The first one on the next page is the rock removals. That's there's a couple of them on here, and I think one more to come yet. So we had allowances for rock removals, and some of these are starting to go over the allowances, but still within the total budget and our contingencies. Flagpole changes. We thought we were going to have a banner type. Now we have a typical flagpole. That was actually a deduct. Change event 18. We added casework into a mailroom. We didn't know exactly what the mailroom was going to look like at one time, but it got detailed out. We did add that casework in. We also made some changes to the itinerant space to give the district some flexibility for future office staff. Change event 19, that's the conformance set. That was when the city finalized their review, and they wanted some door fire rating changes and some firewall changes. That also added some hold opens to the doors to hold open and shut in case of a fire. Change event 20, Minnesota Power excavation of trenches. I feel like I'm just shooting these things off. Hopefully that's all right. Minnesota Power excavation for trenches. So that one, Minnesota Power had difficulty getting on site with their equipment, so we had Byte do it. But Minnesota Power then you only pay Minnesota Power what they actually spend. So you'll get the price, you'll get costs back from Minnesota Power's bill. And then they found an electrical vault that was not shown on any as-built drawings that had to be removed. Glazing rating and tint at the additions. That one we added tinting to improve the R value of the exterior. And again, when we added the tint and upgraded the glazing rating, that was another thing with inflation. Being that we were having to reprice, kind of got hit with some inflation costs. Temporary power to the central high school. So that's the temporary power for the abatement contractors that have now completed their abatement of central high school. SI8 is electrical or elevator furring wall. Originally, we were going to adhere the drywall onto this block elevator shaft. Sometimes when you adhere drywall, it gets a little bit warpy and doesn't look that great. So to give it the cleanest finish, like this wall, you'll see it's furred it out, and now it'll have a nice flat surface of drywall. PR6 is some fire dampers. That relates to the ASI. That relates also to ASI 6 with the firewall changes. We had to add some fire dampers. Some more rock removals. Temporary water is the next one for the abatement contractors. And then bedrock footing modifications. So we removed as much rock as we could reasonably. And then at one point it got cheaper to actually just pin some of the footings to the bedrock. So that's where they have to modify their footings to go with the surface of the bedrock. We've made when you walk up the main staircase at the district services building, there's some railing changes that we did. It's going to be a beautiful railing system you guys will see, and some of those modifications were in PR7. PR8 added a phone and master station to the district services building. The last time I discussed it, it was facilities. Change event 32 is the water connection at STC, so that's the building that's remaining down at the bottom, or towards the lake side. There was the existing drawings from many years ago didn't show correctly how the water was fed there. It showed it from the incorrect side, so when we started our construction, we actually killed the water to that building, thinking that it was still active because of the existing drawings showing it being fed from the other side. So we had to run a new water line pretty close to Central High School to get that building back fed. stair hatch added steel support. That was just, we needed to add more steel for structural support. The stair hatch. Sanitary conflict, again, that's this city's existing drawings didn't correctly show storm and also data, and a water line was in conflict with our new sanitary, so we had to do some jogging there and actually bringing more fill to move the elevation of that. Canopy support, that's just a little bit extra support needed when we got on site. Change by 39, field work order 789. We have about 50 manholes out there, and item A for change by 39 is about 25 of them. We had to order the manholes and core drill through the side of them to have them connect to some drain tile on the roadway so it can drain appropriately. We had a crane road install. I mean, that's things that we were planning. These are things that we're planning on doing. So we had to bring more class 5 in to allow the crane to go and set the precast panels. Furnish and install a ramp inside DSC. Same thing, we were planning on that. Push some dirt over some foundation walls so the equipment can drive up into the building before we pour the slab and dig out for underground plumbing and electricals. There was also some soil corrections inside the transportation building that some poor saturated soils needed to be removed so we could and import some nice soil so we could get a nice base for the concrete slab. Central entrance asphalt thickness, it's change band 41. That one, again, the city folks came by and pointed out, so it's going to be a public road, so we have to build it to public road standards. That's right at the central entrance. And when we got down to there, we realized that the existing was actually a lot thicker than what we were anticipating. So talking to NCE, which is doing our inspections for us, so the civil engineer, also the city, we were just to replace like for like, so we just replaced it as it was. So you have thicker asphalt down at the entrance there. And then change band 42 is some general condition type items. Temporary rain leaders, that's just to keep construction going. Right now, none of our storm sewers connected, so the rain would come in and disperse on the floor and get our drywall wet and stuff. So we wouldn't want that, so we have temporary leaders getting the water outside of the building. And then the demolition of Central High School, which is the last project we have going up on the hill. We had regulated waste transfer to Mavo, and then the salvaging reduction of aluminum and copper, so electric vehicles.
And Nathan did a great job of explaining all those, but please keep in mind that for every one of those, there was a meeting between Jason, the site suit, the contractor, myself. I mean, we talk about every one of these with the contractor, and we come to conclusion of what is the best way to fix the issue, or the most, the best, most cost-effective way to do it. So there's a lot of time involved in each one of these that we take.
And many of them start, there's some of them that are higher, and we, dissect them like, oh, that's not justified, and work our way to a fair number.
Does anybody have any questions at all on, or within budget, we have a good amount of contingency left. You feel comfortable, Nathan?
Yeah, so we are currently at about like 3%. I have some projected that are coming for the next round. We're going to be at about 1 to 2% kind of after this next round of items that we need. Because right now, if you walk through the site, framing, we have some drywall going on. That's where you get a lot of those. They're cheaper, but there are a lot of those little conflicts where the duct doesn't line up or we have to move something. And so those are the next round of stuff coming. But we're still at like 2%, which sometimes we can kick off a construction project being at 2.5 to 3%. So we're sitting pretty good from a contingency standpoint.
2% of what?
2% of construction costs. So if the project is
10 million.
10 million, we have 2%.
We're coming out of the ground, and that's less risk of big change orders.
I just want to say thanks to the group for coordinating such a complex process and project. I've taken part in a couple of the training part of the planning meetings, but also having stayed abreast with conversation through Teresa and with Dave. I think it's been really solid. I was also up there last Wednesday. I went and toured the facility, and it's amazing to see all the progress. So thank you for keeping us abreast of these changes as well as the work that's being done.
You're very welcome. I want to say thank you to Nathan and Pat over. They're doing just an awesome job for us.
Will you be coming back,
Thanks, Kelly.
in a couple months or when, how often do you?
Well, it's been probably too long, but we can come back, every 2 months if you want it, or it's kind of up to the board and district leadership how often you want us to bring these to you. We were June, so July, August, September, October, 4 months. Maybe 2 months or 3 months.
Maybe
might be better.
quarterly, so maybe every 3 months.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm open for whenever.
Right.
There aren't too many quarters.
We'll be
Nuts.
moving in.
We will answer you.
Well, thank you, Nathan.
And maybe it'll depend on number, like if there are
If there's
substantial change orders, we might want to review it sooner, but
I don't foresee that happening. We're through the major change orders, I believe.
417,000 seems like a lot of money now compared to the total project cost. But compared to the total project cost, it probably isn't. Can you speak to the incorrect drawings? It seems that was the cause of several of these orders.
So what would be one of those?
Like the city has bills for the Santa.
Oh, okay, yeah. So those, we have existing drawings that we, give to the civil engineer, electrical engineer, and they use those, and that's how they design their system. So in that situation, they were given, documents from 30 years ago to build off of, and then when we get up here and start digging through the ground, you end up, hey, that's not where it's supposed to be. And then that's where we have to kind of make stop work, move some things around to make sure we get installed.
I mean, I understand all that, but why are the drawings wrong in the first place?
Oh, the existing ones?
Yes.
Oh,
Those are called as-built.
we
Yeah.
shouldn't have
But they're
those.
from the city.
From the city.
Right,
So when they were changed, they probably weren't updated or,
The door is locked?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm just thinking, oh, this door is locked.
oh, probably because it's under.
yeah, this one's locked. Right.
So when
Time change.
the drawings that we have, are they updated then?
So when
So
we,
that's going forward?
yeah, so when we get done with the project, that's one of our deliverables to you guys is an as-built drawing set. So you'll get a full as-built drawing, of how everything was put in place.
I agree, I think quarterly is a good idea. It's more- sooner than it's not.
3 months and then we'll be just about
So
moving in.
let's see, December, January, February-ish, and then March,
Yeah.
April,
Probably
May.
final change orders then in May,
Nathan
right?
will be back twice then. Once.
Hello. Yeah, that'd be,
Oh, no, that's okay.
All right.
Anybody have any other questions for Nathan?
thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
Did you? It was, it was
Riveting.
quite a lot of talking.
Have you memorized the list?
Yeah,
or
what was change order 26? Let's see how good.
Was it the part about the water line
Yes.
and then
Wait,
reconnecting?
how did you see my hands?
That's
How
good.
did you know what I was doing?
And then reconnecting to HTC, STC.
Well, I tried to go fast, but I also don't want to go too fast either, if you guys have questions. Okay, I'll get out of here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Perfect. It is exciting.
It is really exciting. Every day it's just, looks just really
I
nice.
can see your grin is from ear
I
to ear.
know. I love building new buildings.
I
You
know.
can see it peeking through the trees too,
Right?
from the central
Yeah,
entrance to the
that's
bus
exciting.
garage.
Then all the ribbon and bituminous on the way up the hill looks good too.
Yeah. So the road is now open?
from central entrance up to facilities, we've got the first lift of bituminous. So I mean, there'll be more, but
Right.
this bitumen, you can take a car up there now with no trouble.
Yeah, I've driven up. It's nicely paved. Looks like some nice lighting going in too. Great.
Take it or no?
Continue.
Okay. All right, we can move on to the HR monthly departmental report.
So you can see in the report the staffing updates. We're always happy to see new hires of non-certified and that they are higher than any of the resignations or leaves, so it's always a bonus. A couple departmental updates. Our HR manager, Kate Elling, last day will be this week, it was last week on Friday. She moved on to the Department of Education, and we are hoping to find her replacement through interviews this Friday. We have been working with paraprofessionals to move from paper timesheets to electronic timesheets and to be able to use their badges on our electronic systems. We had both of our middle schools were very eager to get moving on this, so they were our test group, and that seemed to go well. So now we are going to be moving on to try to get all of our paraprofessionals through all the sites onto electronic timesheets by the end of the year, and then we will move forward with food service and maintenance staff after that. So ideally, by the end of the school year, we would have every employee on electronic timesheet, no more paper timesheets. I attended the MASPA conference middle of October. Really great training on equity and inclusion. And then we had also staff attended the Harvest Job Fair down in Cloquet in the middle of October as well. And then we are also looking for many other opportunities as we can find to promote jobs. At ISD 709, you'll see as we get down later, we are still seeking paraprofessionals, maintenance workers, food service. Same every month as we've come here. We're still having difficulty filling those, but you'll start seeing signs pop up around the different school sites too with we're hiring. So we've been getting those into the ground and trying to think of some other creative ways that we can do some outreach. Benefits update, we are in the middle of open enrollment right now, and we had our benefits team stuff all 1,000 envelopes for the retiree open enrollment packet, so those go out in the mail. All the rest go electronically, and it is a passive enrollment, so it's only if people are making changes for the dental vision flex spending they have to enroll in every year if they want to continue. That'll be going on through the 15th of November and then November 18th for retirees. We did hold one of the, I think I mentioned this last time that we were having our first retirement session. We held that on the 26th of October, and we had a full house for that, and we actually had a few people on a waiting list. So there's another one happening the end of November, and then we'll continue to have them in December and January. And the first couple have been open to, the first one was open to teachers only, and they have a strict deadline in their contract of February 1 to be able to notify for retirement. So we want to make sure we're getting to them early. The rest of these sessions now will be open to all employees, including teachers. And I've also mentioned before, we've had our second Calm Challenge going on in October. We had, I missed a number there, I believe we had 200 and some participants. We did have a winner that we drew of random participants that followed the process. And it was a wellness self-care basket valued at $150. So Molly put it there, we'll get that. There are 617 employees, which is 47.1% that have signed up to use the Calm app that the district is providing for them, and
What percent, I'm sorry?
47.1%. And of those, 64.2% are actually actively using the app.
So roughly somewhere between about 25% of our people are using it.
Yeah, which one, and I always compare it to like other pieces like EAP, which we have such a small percentage, less than 5% people using it. So we'll continue to try to promote it, and we send out monthly reminders, and there will be another challenge probably coming up here as the holiday season kicks off to get employees engaged. And then the benefits team also is looking for other things that they can do to help keep our processes improved, as well as what can we do for our employees. We did add to our open enrollment family premier dental this go around, so that was one thing that we've just added to try to give more to the employees.
The hiring updates there, as you'll see, licensed staff, special education, still looking for quite a few, and we had a few people leave, which is why this number is up over the last month. And then again, as I mentioned, you'll see paraprofessional. The maintenance transportation, although it shows one, there's actually still 16 maintenance positions open. And we have had several bus drivers turn in retirement or resignation, so those will be posted here pretty quickly. Still working with the Oilers unit related to the last bargaining unit contract for this year to be settled. I do have a meeting with them on Wednesday to discuss potential alternate proposals. So it's been good dialogue. We're moving forward. So hopefully in the near future we'll have
This
a settlement.
Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay, great. So by the school board meeting, we should have
At least I can give you an update.
given an update.
Sure, perfect. Yeah. And that is it.
Quick question, just because I know the board has had interest. The teachers on call, looking at their weekly report, looks like a fill rate of about 83.4% on average. So the rates continue to increase there, and appreciate all the work you're doing in human resources.
Yes, and another thing related to teachers on call, we have filled with some of our difficult schools. We have put into place long-term substitutes, so they are actually assigned to the school and they go there every day, and then wherever there's a vacancy, they are placed. So they have the flexibility to be put in any of the needed areas. We have 4 of those at Denfeld. We just filled the one at Laura Mack, and we also have one at Myers Williams. So those were kind of our more difficult to find substitutes for those buildings. And so we'll continue to look at that and see if there's other buildings that might be that might benefit by that arrangement. But it guarantees us that we have at least those 4 subs at Denfeld every day.
Great job. Thank you, Teresa. Other questions?
I have one. The February 1st requirement notification for teachers who are going to retire, I know in the past that it's not been held to that, which has caused some problems. Is there any discussion about how that will go?
So we actually had discussed that quite at length in negotiations when we were able to change the date from April to February. And I believe we have an understanding now and support from the DFT, and that if as long as we meet our end, which is communicating out that this is the date and we provide the notice as dictated in the contract, that going forward, and my understanding is that communication has been given to the retirees as well, or their bargaining unit, to let them know the date has changed and that there is a consequence if they don't meet that.
So what was the consequence again?
It's deferment of they have sick leave that they can put into the healthcare savings upon retirement, and if they don't hit that deadline, it's a deferment for a year to access those funds.
It was deferment, though, it wasn't that they wouldn't have to get it.
Right, it's just deferment.
Other questions? Thank you, Teresa. All right, now on to business services. So we have our first update here for finance.
Hello. I gave you my book there, so
Oh,
I,
here's-
no,
Okay.
I'm using board book now,
I'm
so.
just a disruptor today.
Oh, you're perfect. So our first is our November projected average daily membership. And this is, prepared by Cattery Little, who does a great job. And our projected ADM is 7,994.65, and she's now projecting 80.39, which potentially could go up to 85.74. So that's very exciting information. And she did present the 21-22 final ADMs in one of her handouts, and 21-22 ended in 80.50, and we're sitting at 80.39 as our projection. So that's a pretty positive number right there.
Small, can you say that again for me? This is the end for the 20, for the 2021-2022 school year.
Yes, so the final ADM at 21-22 came in 8,081.50. And right now our 22-23 projected ADM is 8080.39. So we're holding very steady there. And of course, we are, our conservative planner, so we plan for 7994.65 is our projected ADM, and right now, it's looking like we're going to be up a little over 85.
Great.
Okay.
Then the next we have child nutrition.
And we have our star guest today, Sheila Oak, who runs our food nutrition department and does an amazing job. And she will read the report, and the floor is yours.
What an introduction. Holy smokes. The report I send each month for this meeting is very similar to I do a weekly report to stay in touch with each one of our managers, and they post that so that everybody can kind of keep up with what's going on, how many employees are short, what's really happening each week. And then I try to take that and put it into the report that I give Simone. So the top is pretty self-explanatory. It goes over all of the breakfasts and lunches that we serve. We do between 7,000 and 8,000 meals and snacks a day. In addition to these numbers, we feed Head Start, breakfast and lunch and snack, and we have after-school snacks. We haven't been able to start our supper program because I haven't been able to find someone to staff it. And I know that Denfeld's having a hard time staffing the DASH program also that goes along with that. So that's still on our radar. Teresa already talked about openings we have. Just to kind of give you an idea, we have 14 managers. Each school has a manager, and then we have assistants. We have 60 assistants, and we currently need 21 of those. So that gives you a good idea of how short we run every day. And then people have lives and take days off, and yeah, so it's pretty tight. I put in for a mini farm to school grant for next school year. The state of Minnesota has 2 different levels of grants. After I talked with Simone, we decided to go for the smaller grant. Before the pandemic hit, we had a pretty good stride going with farm to school, and then everything got really complicated and things kind of fell apart. So we're trying to piece things back together again, and we thought just kind of doing a back to basics approach with that would be a good idea, so we can manage the funds responsibly. And
For next year, why don't you share what vegetables you're focusing on?
yeah, we tried to pick like 3 things we could focus on. So in the past, we've done a Minnesota menu once a month. We'll do that again. We'll highlight Minnesota tomatoes because those are really easy to get around here. And we'll also do Minnesota squash. So those are 3 goals to hit. And we can add things way more than that as they come to us. So we also work very closely with Choice Unlimited and Employment Links, and they chose our program and Dave's as the large employer of the year, which was a really nice honor, I thought. We employ 11 dishwashers in our kitchens that we really need, so it works really well. They come with job coaches, some of them are just fine on their own. So we work with, I think there's 3 different groups in this city of Duluth that we work with. So. And they chose us for their large employer, their small employer was Grandma's Marathon, so we're up in the ranks with those. And that pretty much, that's us.
Perfect. Brett and I did a site visit last week at Denfeld, and we found your room way in the back, and they have, you know, Sheila runs a great program, and they all pitch in. She likes being at the school because she's hands-on if they need help, either with the homework, which happens a lot.
Yeah.
And she mentioned the farm to school grant. I know there was a bigger grant out there, and due to the transition between the previous CFO and, you know, me coming on board, and it's just pretty late in the school year, so we've asked respectfully if we could, it's a great program and it's something we'd like to look at going forward, but we've asked respectfully that we can just wait this year for that. And Sheila went ahead and applied for the small grant, so we're small steps. And I
Yep,
think
we have it on
we're
our
doing
radar.
great. Yes.
And the, we buy about 280,000, maybe close to $300,000 worth of fresh fruits and vegetables through the Department of Defense. We use all of our commodity dollars to do that, and we've done that for quite a few years. It really saves our food budget. So when they can, they send us local produce, and they mark it on the invoices. So everybody's trying to support that whole mission there.
That's great. And can you speak, please, to the free and reduced applications and the work you do on that?
Yes. So free and reduced lunch applications get mailed out, sent to each family at the beginning of the school year. We get applications all year long, and people can apply as their life changes. We had probably double the amount of people that came in directly certified from the state of Minnesota this year, which has helped us out a lot. There were a lot of people that didn't need to do applications because they were already qualified. They pulled in Medicaid programs, and we had for the first time students qualify directly certified as reduced as well as free. We've processed over 1,000 applications, I think. The bulk of it is done electronically. They can go online and fill out their application, kind of leads you right through it. And they get their results instantly if they choose to get an email sent back to them. We just got done doing verification. We do a random poll each year and send out notifications that, hey, you did win the lottery, but you kind of have to respond to this letter to continue receiving for your reduced lunches. So they have to submit their income proof, and then I have to do a report to the state on who replied and who didn't.
So Sheila, is those families that come in already verified, is that a new program the state is doing this year, or is that something that the state has done in the past?
So the program has always been
Yeah.
there in the past, and it was more for a group of kids that got MFib or SNAP, or and the numbers were closer to about 2,000 kids. And this year they widened the eligibility to get that benefit, and our numbers were closer to 4,000.
So this year we're closer to 4,000 that they're coming in already.
Yep, they don't need applications. The principals are doing a really big push. I get colored applications, I get, to get those free and reduced lunch applications in, they ask me for reports of families that haven't applied yet. So there is a big push to get those. I sent out a mailing for people that were gonna expire. They get 30 days at the beginning of the year from last year's status.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we've been, trying really hard to get as many applications as we can in. We also did we just did our second billing to families, and that always prompts a lot of phone calls, and, which is a good thing, because it solves a lot of problems, and maybe people didn't realize they didn't have an application in, so.
That's great news. Thank you. Are there questions?
I have a question. Of the applications that you received, the over 1,000, what percentage of them are typically approved? Just thinking, what's our, if we're thinking the 4,000 from the auto certified and then 1,000 applications, is it almost all of those approved? So we have about 5,000 this year that, of our students that would have.
I would say most
reduced?
people that put in an application qualify.
That's a large.
The ones I get handwritten are basically, I think, following through, because the principal said, you better fill this out, because we're going for 100%. And those people know they don't qualify, they'll come in with a line across them. Yeah.
Quick question, kind of merging of previous topic and this one. I know that we've had some conversations about the location for nutritional services, and you found it to be beneficial to be at Denfeld for the time being, just because of the high needs there, and also thinking about being closer to students.
Yes.
Do you want to comment on that?
I actually have felt more connected to my work in the last 2 years being there. Just from being around the students, we run more testings, we try more products. It just feels like we're more involved because we're right in the thick of it. It's also, the majority of my problems come on that end of town. So it's quick to run out to other sites. It's worked out really well for us.
Thank you. And then I know that there was a possible concern that, considering foot traffic and people coming in to have questions answered by nutritional services, that, if it's on the west side rather than the east side, is that creating potential inequity or challenges for people to get to the west side? You haven't dealt with too much foot traffic?
I haven't, no.
Okay. And I know we're also looking at doing some potential employment of some of our students, or at least making sure there's that hook there, so that's another reason as well, right?
Yes. And in fact, I met with, is his name Andy? He works with students at Denfeld, and we're looking at placing some kids a couple different places.
Great. We do have space at the district service center if need be, but I think having you stay where you're at is something that there's room for now and interest, so it's something I want to support.
I do have one more person in my office now, John. We have 4 people. We employ a equipment technician that has been just a godsend to have, that repairs, and just having him right there on the ready to go out and do preventative maintenance and fix things has been absolutely wonderful.
That's great.
I know there's been discussion about the use of free and reduced lunch as a useful proxy for calculating ComEd, and especially since the federal government says they might pay for all of these things. What's the status of that?
We were just talking about that. So, I think that the federal government has kind of wants the states to decide individually if they want to cover the cost for school lunch for everybody. The community eligibility would mean everybody, basically. I believe that it's going to be a topic this spring, but I haven't heard a whole lot about it.
It's a topic where,
To have universal free lunch at the state.
in the legislature.
Yes.
What about the free and reduced lunch as the criteria? Is that within the this? I mean, that's question, is that a good measure of poverty, for example, if you're giving ComEd based on that measurement? Is there anything there?
That I don't know.
And the dollar amount that the annual amount that a family needs to qualify for is set by the federal government. We don't set that. So,
And it changes each year,
Each
just like
changes.
tax tables.
Yes.
So they have to reapply each year.
Potentially it has some budgetary implications.
Yes, potentially, yes. Try not to panic.
Yeah.
Are there other questions? Thank you for coming today. We appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
What an introduction. It's been a
Right.
great.
So anytime,
Right?
thank you so much.
Thank
Sheila.
you so
Yes,
much.
Great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Feels like I should go to bed.
Yeah, right?
Seriously.
All right, kidding. See you.
Thank
Care.
you.
Bye, Sheila.
And now we move on to facilities.
Thank you, Member Derek Eater. I'll start out with the paragraph, maintenance and operations. In the past month, we've completed 301 work orders and have 335 open work orders on our capital construction. Denfeld Tower, the masonry, the tuck pointing aspect of the project is done. And what we have left is the clock ends on one face, which are being made by students, and the spire, which is the pointed roof, and the finial, which is the decorative device on top of the spire. So that it's been a long project, but we're nearing the end. The Conga Park window replacement project should be done at the end of next week. Denfeld sped bathroom should be done hopefully at the end of next week as well. I'm working on LTFM projects for next summer with some design professionals. And Stowe Elementary is getting a fresh coat of paint on the interior for the LTFM project. We are working with our attorney on PSS track on the Lane 1 ponding remediation. Construction tasks on the hill. The facility building is complete with the new furniture installed. It basically needs to be cleaned and inspected, and that building is going to be ready to be occupied once the other buildings are ready. Good progress is going on at the DSC and the transportation buildings. And the first lift of bituminous is placed in front of facilities, the lot between facilities and DSC, and the road from facilities down to central entrance. Abatement is completed at the central high school. It appears demo will start, or mobilization for demo a week from today on November 14th. And the district services center furniture is finalized and is being ordered. Under the operations staff, we have people that have been doing just a great job. We're short roughly 18 people, but our staff are just working as hard as they can to keep the building safe and clean for teaching and learning. Under health and safety and environmental management, the first labor management safety committee meeting was held. Several school audits were completed and will be reviewed at the November safety committee meeting. The user maintenance on the Vector and Navigate 360 training platforms is fairly well. I see Matt did put the numbers, but it's pretty successful training to this point. And the work comp activities are self-explanatory, and I'll open it up for questions at this point if anybody has any.
With the PSS lane 1 ponding remediation, who's paying for the attorney's fees when this is all done? Are we paying for, like, every time it goes to the attorney, we have a cost? Are we paying for that?
I'd have to say we are, but the cost is relatively minimal.
Okay. We're attorneys.
Right.
When attorneys are involved. Perfect. Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Now we have technology. Hi Bart, how are you?
Good.
So for the technology October report, we'll start off with cybersecurity. Just go to Google security. Our emails are 1.5 million last month, which is up. 158,000 were rejected, which is also up. 50,000 were identified as spam. 6.4 were identified as phishing. 37 were identified as having suspicious attachments. 8.8K of them were identified as spoofing. 0 emails were identified as malware, so that's good. Some of those phishing emails are, we're running a campaign as part of our cyber insurance to actually phish and then training our district. That's one of the requirements. So staff are identifying actually phishing emails. Some are falling for them, so because it brings up training, the training video right away if they click on it. Account information, our accounts are up to 10,859, and I think pretty much all of our students got their consent forms in, so that's why we should be pretty stable with our accounts now. Our sharing is up to 23.46 terabytes of, storage. Sharing is 589,000 files shared externally. 565 suspicious login attempts for the last month, which is down. 2.5 thousand failed user login attempts. And our data loss, 19 high severity incidents have been logged. And that could be credit cards or social security numbers or some kind of personal information. For bids, we have bid 1307, which is our data center co-location services. It's going to be opening at 2 p.m. on November 29th. And our near future ones, we're still working on E-rate switch bid and E-rate wireless controller bids. Our help desk tickets, 525 new tickets created last month, which is down. 763 were closed. 206 still remain flew into this one. Our projects are the cybersecurity. We continue to work with other security vulnerabilities that have been identified by Project Wolf. We're still working with Benson Electric to install more wireless access points. And then equipment has been arriving for the technology equipment for the new buildings. So that's the boardroom as well as the conference rooms. Anybody has any questions?
Bart, what is the data center co-locations? Is that just redundancy and?
Actually, no, we have our servers are co-located. They're not in Duluth public school property.
Okay.
We're off-site, so right now it's currently in Volta. It's the 6th Avenue East, where the authority hardware was. The Century's in there as well.
So it's just redoing that bid, or what is it?
Yeah, it's going up for its.
Okay.
It's due this July 1st.
Okay. And when like a staff or something, when they fall for one of the phishing, there's nothing punitive associated with that, right? It's just training.
It sends them to a training video. It just sends them to a training. Yeah. So what we're seeing is our phishing rate is like 12%, and of that, a very small percentage of them are watching the video, and a very small percentage of them are actually watching the whole thing. So that's our phishing rate is low, which is good, but the people who do get phished, they're not
watching the training video.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see if we can correct that.
It seems to me that if you boil all this down, the two things we need to be concerned about are cybersecurity. You mentioned that, and then the capacity of the system to handle what we need to be handled, and I don't see anything in this that displays real concern with either of those at this point.
No, we're doing our best with our cybersecurity. I do the report because it is a big issue, with all the schools and everything happening. And we're working with, Arctic Wolf as a contractor. We have scans going on every day that scan all of our equipment, scan everything that's plugged in our network, and reports any vulnerabilities that they identify for us to fix. So that's why it's a continuing that Arctic Wolf scanning and fixing. That's going to continue forever.
That's good.
For us. So it just points it out, saying that, hey, you need to do this.
What about the capacity of our system to deal with all of the demands that the teachers and students make?
Our biggest capacity capacity issues I think we have is our additional wireless access points. So in various rooms and locations, so that's where we're adding that right now, working with Benson Electric. In doing that, we figured we'd have to add probably 100 more across the district, which isn't that bad because we already have 1,000 of them there. So,
Are there other questions? Thank you, Bart, I appreciate you. Right, and then now we have technology, or not technology, sorry, transportation.
Transportation. Do you want me to read it or
Um,
just,
What I gleaned from this, right, is we're still waiting for our buses, hopefully in March, and that we're using new software for routing, and that should happen starting this month through December.
Bart, are you guys helping with this installation of VersaTrans?
actually, it's online, but
Okay.
Nate is helping, so we have to transfer or do all the maps, redo all the maps for it. So Nate is working with that, and then he'll have to redo the into the campus syncing. Yeah, we're really looking forward to this. You know,
Better system,
it's an updated system.
updated system.
So it's gonna help out, you know, our schools as well as transportation.
It looks like we had 115 trips in October, 47 so far in November. It seems like we are in that perpetual state of needing drivers. And other than that, it looks like everything's okay except for the entry-level driver's training. Seems to be a little bit more difficult than what we've had in the past. Does that sound about right?
Yes. And I'd like to bring something else up. It
Yes.
has come up, we've been getting an email regarding an electric bus grant. And I've spoken with Steve, he's talked to the Duluth Transit Authority as well. They do have electric buses, but they're finding because we are cold, it's cold here, the buses only work half the day. We don't have the infrastructure right now, charging stations, buses need to be kept warm. And in our new facility, the buses will all have a house, but it will not be warmed in there. So, he went through a review, he said 3 years ago, but at this time, we just don't have, it's not set up for us. And the grant pays for half the bus, and we just quite frankly don't have funds to buy the electric buses right now. And it's approximately $20,000 a charging station, so it's a costly investment. And, I mean, Duluth does it, but we're hilly and it's very cold here and they get maybe a half a day charge out of their batteries.
And do those, I would guess those charging stations would probably have to be different than plugging in a car.
Yes,
They'd probably need a little bit more juice.
yes. So at this time, it's not the right setup for us, so I just wanted to address that.
Thank you for that. You don't want to get on top of that, Dave?
Just add that
No,
to
thank
it.
you.
Next time around. Thank you,
Oh,
Simone.
yes, and we are doing a site visit with them this week.
Oh, to transfer
Yes,
transportation?
yes, to transportation.
Did you have questions, David?
Thank you.
All right. So now we move on to our recommended resolutions. And we have acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools. Quite a few to Lower Mac, quite a few to Denfeld. That's great. Yeah, so we will put this, is not on our consent agenda, right? Don't we pull these off, I think. All right, and then next we have a resolution, acceptance of grants, and we have a grant from MetroNet, is that how you say it? And this is district-wide for about $237, and it's professional development coursework called Engage Your Community by Uniting Marketing and Outreach. Are there any questions on any of our resolutions? All right, and then next we'll move on to what we're gonna have on the consent agenda. So we have the HR staffing report. This is a really small one. I'm used to seeing like
I
a
know.
lot bigger ones. Yeah, so that's great. So we have our HR, and then we move on to some new job descriptions.
Yes.
Do you wanna talk about those, Teresa?
Sure. So the first job description is the purchasing coordinator. We recently had our purchasing supervisor put him in his retirement, and Simone has been doing some review of the department and what would be a better fit type of position. So in lieu of at this time filling that supervisory position, we believe that having a purchasing coordinator would be a better fit for what is needed. So that's a new description coming forward.
Is this anything, does this person in this job would sit in one of our unions?
It is in the non-certified business.
Okay. And I'm assuming that.
Actually, all three of these are in the same.
In the non, okay, and I'm assuming that we have to do some business with the unions, or how does that work?
Yep, so I've already talked to the union president, who happens to be Cattery.
Got it?
So I've already talked to her about all three of these job descriptions, and we've actually negotiated pay for them as well.
And I'd like to say that Anton or Tony Kalakovich was in that position for 32 years and retired, and we want to wish him the best.
For sure.
He did a great job and was dedicated to the district, so I want to make sure we thank him for
Can
his
you tell
time
me
here.
the name again?
We call him Tony, but it's Anton
Okay.
Kalakovich. Kelokovich.
All right, we'll make sure to give him a shout out at
Yes.
the school board meeting.
That'd be great.
32 years, that's amazing.
Yes.
Very impressive.
All right, so then next we have the accounting supervisor.
So the next one's a supervisory accountant, and this is actually a result of a request for a job audit for our accountant 2 that currently sits at our accountant 2.
Okay.
With some of the transition over the last 6 months in the finance department, as well as previous work that has been kind of assigned to this person, she had requested an audit, and the union and I both agreed that a new job description would be appropriate, since a lot of the duties fell outside of her current role. And so this is the job description that has come forward as a result of that.
Okay, so this was the individual sitting in this position requested an audit between the union and the district?
Yes.
And then once that's done, this new position came out of it?
Yes.
Oh, great, what an excellent example of labor management.
Yes. So upon approval then, because it was a request of a job audit, she'd be automatically placed into this new job description, so
Got
it
it.
wouldn't need to be posted.
And then does a change in the job position come with the change in pay?
This would be a pay of 1 step higher than
Okay.
the accountant 2. And actually, if the accountant 2 were to be backfilled, which the intention right now is not to do that, this would be responsible for
Okay,
the supervision
the
of that.
supervision of
person.
that?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. And then we have, okay, so the just so I'm keeping this straight, the purchasing and procurement coordinator, we had a retirement, and that gave us the opportunity to relook at the job and what we need.
Yes. So that is a brand new job description.
Okay.
And part of this had to do with the restructuring that we did when we did not fill the CFO position. And so by saving a full administrative position there were a few minor tweaks that
Sure.
Simone needed to make under her purview.
Okay, that makes sense then. Great, okay, and then lastly, we have the,
So the last one is a health services coordinator, and this is also a new position that has come out of discussions with special services director, as well as Dave Spooner and the safety component, and a little bit of HR workers comp kind of piece in there. So we have right now a person that's been doing kind of COVID nurse, so they've been dealing with all that, but there's not a need for that. However, what we found is that a lot of the district-wide thing, there isn't a person that does any of the district-wide kind of pieces related to something like that. So through those discussions, the leadership decided that they really did need a person that could fill that
need, and also then help support some of the student injury reporting along with the workers' comp. And, you know, with a district this large and having one safety person, the ratio is really, really quite extreme. So this will be a person that can help support some of that work, but also the special services piece, and also provide guidance to the school nurses along with that information.
So this again is a brand new position?
It is brand new, yep. So these, the purchasing coordinator and this position upon approval would be posted for interview process.
Got it. And then, the health services, oh, this is in facilities, okay, got it.
Yes.
All right. Are there any questions on the new classifications? Maybe at the school board meeting on Tuesday, it's Tuesday, right? Just kidding. You'll be there, right, just in case there's any questions?
Yes.
Because I feel like, I know this is on the consent agenda, but I think it'd be important we bring some special attention just for everybody. Sure. Great, thank you. No questions? Great, so now let's move on to our, oh, it has it nicely color coordinated here,
Yes.
our fund balance report. Right?
Yes, so I kind of, between our presentations, I do want to just say that I was at our MASBO conference last week, and Thursday and Friday. It was quite invigorating, and it was good to renew what we know, and attended a legislative budget session, and you know, everyone in the room is feeling the same pinches and problems we are. So it is just helpful to know that every district has the same concerns that we do. I got to meet with the director of Department of Education.
How was that?
She was great.
Tough nut to
So
crack.
that was super fun, and got to see her, and she actually spoke to before the keynote speaker and did a quick hello. So that was really neat, and so it was great to see her. So yes, our fund balance report. So these are numbers that are taken directly out of Skyward. The adopted budget. Revised budgets are numbers that you adopted back in June. These are straight from Skyward, and our received to date amounts, any encumbered amounts, and then what our budget balances are. To the bottom left, as I promised you last month, I'm going to give you an update on what part of these numbers is our ESSER 3 spending. So in program 108 in technology, we've spent a little over 1.7 million. Do you see where I'm saying? Yep. And 203 is, program 203 is our elementary, which is 467,000 and change. Secondary is a little over right now 79,000. Operations at a little over 85,000, and pupil engagement a little over 70. So as of October 31st, we've spent a little over 2.4 million in our ESSER 3 spending. I will go over last year's ESSER spending in one of our next slides. Fund 6, which is Mr. Dave. This is what we've spent so far on our new project. We did receive some money last year, what we call an LTFM bond, and I'm going to track that separately for you. So you'll be seeing those numbers that are embedded up there as well. And
I mean the LTFM bond, you're
that
gonna
was
track
the 10
that?
Yes, we have a separate code built for it,
Got
so once the spending really starts, I can start tracking that for you as well.
All right, and then the Fund 6 is just our building construction.
That is
so then
correct.
those two are gonna be two separate, okay?
Yes,
Just wanted to
they're
make sure.
still all Fund 6,
Yep,
but I can show it differently for you. And then our extracurricular, this, was a question last year, so I thought we'd just keep that. Our extracurricular revenue that we've taken in so far is a little over 65,000. Our expenses are a little over 82,000, but we have kept all those funds in their accounts, and everything was rolled over. It's not like with our general fund expenses, we don't roll over any money, but these funds do. Okay.
So our extracurricular, I just wanna make sure that.
Yeah.
Those funds roll over year to year.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Great,
Okay.
this is great, Simone.
Yeah, good. And So our next slide, I wanted just to capture, highlight for you what our ESSER two spending was. You know, we are still going through our audit, but these are our final numbers for just Finance 155, ESSER two. So our administrative costs are listed there, and I separated out the technology and business services. To the right of the number, you'll see in technology there were Chromebooks and Wi-Fi, non-instructional and instructional software. And then under business services, we had admin, stipends, and non-certified. Our program 200, these were actual dollars we spent on staff. And then our program 600 was staff development, a little over 28,000. Pupil engagement, a little over 226,000, and some maintenance dollars. Our bus purchases that we did get last year were paid with prior year funds, and we spent $7,200 on our Key Zone program. So, to the penny,
There we are.
there you are. Okay?
Questions?
Yes? Oh, I thought you were asking me a question.
Yes.
And then one more.
I have a question,
Yes,
actually.
please.
About the program 200, that, well, there's about $3.5 million in program 2 for wages here. Those ones that we will have to make up if we continue these, do those, how does that work?
So that was last year's spending. So I do have a slide here for this year's spending. That is a budget. And we'll talk about it. And if it doesn't answer your question,
All right.
I will dig into it a little bit better for you. So our third slide now. So you were given, you know, I feel like several times, a budget from our previous CFO. And she did give one to you back in May. It's the Finance 160. And as you can see, the budget program is on the left. Our budget department, the description, so it gives you a little bit more information there, and the budget amount. And so that dollar amount, if you look all the way at the bottom, is a little over 16 million. And right now for this year, so one more column over, you'll see the FY23 proposed budget. And remember, these are soft numbers. I mean, a budget can change, as you know, from month to month if we have some unusual, you know, situations that come up. But right now, this is where we plan on, that we see our spending happening. The only difference here, we do have the MTSS coordinators, and we are using our Finance 161, because we do have another ESSER 3 pot of money, and that is really for extended day, summer school, after school. And right now we have budgeted a little over $9 million for this year. We could end up spending only $6 million, and we could be pushing more. That's more of a conversation after we've gone through all our site staffing budgets. We want to see what our needs will be next year, and then upon advice from the learning side, we will decide where we're going to place that money.
So Simone, what is it? Financial 160, what do you call that?
Finance 160.
Finance 160, how does
ESSER
that?
3.
So that's the code for ESSER 3,
Yes, but there's also another code,
okay?
161, and that is another $4 million bucket. That was presented to back in June, but I'm still working with MDE and the assistant superintendent that is a very specialized set of money that we can only use for extended day, after school.
Okay.
I've submitted a budget, and now they want me, the money's there, they want me to redo the budget again.
Yep.
So I'll give that to you when it is, but the money's there, we just have to be very specific, where we spend it.
If you'll note, the 600, budget program 600, those were the secondary MTSS coordinators. Those were allocated to the FIN 161. There is a provision within that extended learning that you can put together a theory of action, kind of explaining why you want to use some of it in a different way. And we put forward a proposal to have an MTSS coordinator at each of the schools to support some of the behavioral changes and social emotional learning that the principals and staff were asking for. So that was where some of that is going as well.
Questions? Did that answer your question, Member Kirby?
I think so, I'll have to think about it.
Okay, you know where to find me.
Great, so now we can move on to our fundraisers, and we had fundraisers with Lakewood, Lester Park, Stowe, and East. A lot of fundraisers right now for Wolf Ridge. Everybody's getting ready for Wolf Ridge. And then we have some fundraisers from East for music and debt concessions and Drive Coffee fundraiser. So that looks great. Schools are working hard this month. We have no bids, right? RFPs or quotes. We also have no contracts, change orders. Well, we talked about change orders up front, right? Okay. So now we move on to our district property update.
That's pretty much a self-explanatory, read on your own, and I can
Yep.
answer any questions that people might have.
So demolition starts on the 14th of November.
That's the plan that we have right now, that they'll mobilize to start next week sometime.
Great news. All right, then you can look through all the pictures of the progress. We also have something from Fulmer, just talking about Central on the Hill property is pending and all of the websites and everything that is associated with that. Next, we have expenditure contracts signed. We have expenditure contracts you can look in board book. There's just a whole bunch of them here.
Related to the demolition, I just want to note that there's a group that we've been working with, the preservation group, that wanted some of the memorabilia from that school. And Teresa is a central grad herself, has been coordinating that work, and also as executive director for operations. With Dave's
Thank you,
explicit
Teresa.
help, knowledge, and skill.
Thank you.
I would like to make a comment on one of the expenditures, the Whipley contract for $9,750. That is above and beyond our regular contract with them, so there's a GASB 87 rule now regarding leases, and it is
Oh, we have a bunch of leases right now.
complicated, very, we need professionals to handle it, and so they're gonna just do the entire piece for leases. It was something that was supposed to be done last year, but the IRS kind of put it off a year, so. And then I just wanna say too, that Whipley has really been, a terrific help this year, and has, we'll probably have some additional costs there too, but they have, really help the district out with their audit services, so I want to thank them for that.
All right.
One question about the expenditure contract, clarification. I think someone has asked this before, maybe me. There's $26,000 to Marshall for nursing services. Do we get reimbursed for that?
So we provide those services to them, and, we do, yes, because we do get some non-public dollars, but we provide the nurse to them, and then they bill us. So we bill them, excuse me.
I was like, what?
I said, right, it's been a long day. We bill them. Yes, in
Okay.
answer to your question. It's a unique situation here, but that's the way it operates.
other questions? Great, okay, and then now we move on to no cost contracts. Figure out where I'm at here. Here are no cost contracts. Is there anything on here of note, small? Lots of Life Touch, Piedmont Elementary for all the pictures, right?
Yes. Nothing that really stands out.
Okay, perfect, so we can look at our no cost, and we have no revenue contracts. And then the last thing we have is our grant applications, and they're listed here as well. Anything up here of note, small?
No, nothing unusual.
Any questions? All right, that appears to be all of our work today here at HR Business Services. Thank you.